Everybody, we're talking about 2024 today, and I spent a moment talking about new Republicans, but that's not all we have in the news today, right? We're not talking about Nikki Haley or Vivek, whatever the fuck, or anyone else that's trying to run this fucking meatball, whatever. We're not talking about them. We're actually talking about a Democrat who is announcing that they're running for president. And no, we're not talking about Joe Robinette Biden 2, or 3 for that matter, the ghost of. We're talking about Marianne Williamson. And Marianne Williamson, first of all, I just want to say this. I noticed Marianne Williamson is going on podcasts of people that have like less views than me. Can I get Marianne Williamson on my show? Like, she's going on shows that get less viewership than I do. Like, who do I need to reach out? If anybody knows, if anyone knows an email or wants to intro me, I'm open. Let me know. I'd love to get her on my show. That said, she's announced that she's running for president. Now, this is a Fox News headline, so take it with a grain of salt. Democrats turn on joke candidate Marianne Williamson after she announces 2024 challenge to Biden. So, I couldn't find any sort of, like, video or, like, whatever it was of Marianne. I'm just going to use whatever speech that is in here on the Fox News thing. If she does have, like, an announcement video, I couldn't find it. If you want to send it to me, let me know. But I'll tell you what I think about this after we play some of this, because I've got some thoughts here. I got some thoughts, right? So let's watch.
We care about this country, but we're all here, or at least many of us are, because we are upset about this country. We're worried about this country. We're concerned about this country. And we know that this country is plagued by many challenges now, not the least of which is hatred and division, which is greater than any of us have experienced in our national life. And it is our job to create a vision of justice and love that is so powerful that it will override the forces of hatred and injustice and fear that now plague us. It's time for us to look at the entire sweep of the American story, to understand better our past, that we might better understand where we are now. We need to know, what do we owe our ancestors and what do we know our descendants? And we can't know any of that until we see where we stand in the midst of the larger scope of the American story.
Okay, so real quick, 1 minute in. Now, this is like a greatest hits reel of her announcement speech. She hasn't said anything. I'm just saying, I'm just being honest, right? Like, this is not a Bernie Sanders type situation, okay? Hey, I told you this before. I will vote for whoever is not Joe Biden and has the best chance of winning against Joe Biden. Now, if Marianne Williamson is the only one that challenges Joe Biden, I will vote for anyone but Joe. I am an anyone but Joe voter. So, if it's just her and Joe, I'll vote for her. I have no problem with that. But this is not a Bernie Sanders candidate. I'm just saying. Now, again, do I want her to be a Bernie Sanders candidate? I want her to be. I want her to be a really good candidate. That is ideal for my goals. My goals are that Joe Biden is not the nominee in 2024. I would support and want to support anyone who is in alignment with those goals. That said, this is not a Bernie Sanders candidate. It's just not. And I want it to be, but let's continue.
So that dichotomy between the extraordinarily enlightened principles politically and enlightened principles morally on which we purport to stand is often at odds with forces within our country who usually, for their own economic purposes, have no intention whatsoever of seeing those principles.
Yeah, okay, I'm not going to lie to you. I've smoked a lot of weed in my life, done a lot of mushrooms, right? Now, if I am in like a social setting and we're passing a blunt around after doing a couple grams of mushrooms, that's where this speech belongs. Like, I'm just saying, like, we're all in a room, we got some, like, records on, like, low ambient music, there's, like, smoke clouds, we're all passing the bong, right? And then someone's like, yeah, man, it's like the forces of evil, bro, and it's like, and then, we're going to reach enlightenment, and then we're all going to just like, now again, I will vote for her. I am a de facto, as of this moment, Marianne supporter. So I say this with all due respect. I will vote for anyone that's not Joe Biden. And if this is the only thing we got, I will vote for her. So I want to push her in a better direction. If anyone knows how I can get her on my show, I'd love to. But this is not a great speech so far. Now again, hey, I'm all on board with, spirituality. We got to be enlightened. I'm on board with that. But that is not a way to win in an American presidential primary. I'm just saying, hey, I'm just being honest. I'm allowed, right? Now, if she changes that tune and she gets like Bernie Sanders level or even further levels of incisive commentary, I'm all in. That said, as of right now, it is also, again, this is a clip show. I am not watching the full speech. So take all that with a grain of salt.
Principles actualized and have proven in every generation, even unto ours, that they will go to the most violent lengths to make sure they do. What we are going through right now is baked into the cake here. It is no different than what other generations have faced. But I'm here to say to you, other generations stood up and pushed back, and now it's our turn. That's what we need to do. We need to identify the problems in our past, but we need to identify with the problem solvers in our past. We responded to slavery with abolition. We responded to the institutionalized suppression of women with the women's suffrage movement. We responded to the Gilded Age with the establishment of the labor movement and the New Deal. We responded to segregation with the civil rights movement, and it is our turn now. This philosophy, this economic mindset now has its grip on this country. It has its tentacles in every aspect of our lives. It has its grip on this government. This government is now more than not a system of legalized bribery. And this system will not change itself. The status quo, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else will not disrupt itself. That's our job.
So, okay. I'm going to stop there for now. I want to read a little bit of this article because, again, it's a Fox News article, so we got some juice here. But again, I, as of this moment, am a de facto Marianne Williamson supporter. Why? I'm an anyone but Joe voter. So again, I did not like Marianne Williamson's 2020 run. Why? Anyone that ran against Bernie Sanders, in my opinion, was a waste of time. That said, she built her platform, she sold a bunch of books, and now she's trying again, and Bernie won't. So, I'm in, okay? I'm in. To me, so far, I'm in. Now, we also all have to talk about the elephant in the room. We cannot rely on millionaires and billionaires to save us. She is... I heard she was a billionaire. I know she's a multi-mega millionaire. She's extremely wealthy. Now, okay, does that mean she's canceled? No, of course not. But my point is, Bernie Sanders did not make it past the finish line. Why? Why? Because Americans didn't give a fuck. The percentage of Americans that gave a fuck was too low. You cannot wage a successful challenge against Joe Biden on an identity, on a person. And if you do try, you are not going to get the same result as you got with Bernie 2020. Bernie 2020 was a Goldilocks zone of timing and opportunity, and it still was not enough. Now, I want someone to oust Joe Biden. That's my idea. That's my goal. So I say all of this with, if Marianne watches my video or whomever, and they, send this up the chain, this is all positive, constructive critique here. But again, we cannot have a movement that has a leader. We just can't. Okay? We just can't. What happens when movements have leaders? Leaders get killed, and then the movements fall apart. what we need to do, as Marianne says, is learn from our ancestors. And the lesson is, leaders can be great. Leaders can get the ball rolling. Leaders can be a part of a greater struggle. But unless you get people motivated, right? Unless you get people motivated to actually change their lives for the better, for themselves and for their own reasons, not going to do so well. All right. Now, I'm just saying, I'm being honest. Now, again, this is obviously a presidential campaign. We're not talking about an anarchist like uprising or anything, right? So, there's obviously in a presidential campaign, you need to have a figurehead. But that's my point, is that the presidential campaign cannot create the movement. The movement has to create the presidential campaign. And that's what happened with Bernie 16 and Bernie 2020, right? Bernie 2016 happened, right? And that kind of created a movement that was, or at least it kind of spurred the movement that was already in existence and kind of unified them under a common front, right? From the moment Bernie Sanders dropped out to the moment he announced in 2020, people were moving their energy into the next Bernie Sanders run and to growing the movement overall, right? When Bernie 2020 dropped out, the movement, whatever movement you want to say the is in front of, right, whatever that is, gone. It's gone. The Bernie movement is gone. There is none. It's gone, right? From 2015 all the way to 2020, there was momentum in a unifying movement behind a certain presidential figure. And that was a subset of a larger progressive movement in this country. And it didn't work. And so my opinion is Marianne Williamson has a lot of work to do. Not only does she have to, at the very least, get back the Bernie 2020 energy, which I don't think she can. I don't even think it's possible, right? But again, I'm willing to engage in positive propaganda for anyone that's against Joe Biden. I'm not going to do it without my fair share of criticism. But again, I'll vote for Marianne if it's against Joe Biden and if there's no other superior candidate. If Bernie hops in, sorry, Marianne, you better drop out the moment Bernie hops in, if he hops in. That said, she's got a lot of work. And if she does do the work, I'll support her. I'm in. I'm all in on it. But again, Bernie 2020 failed. And we have to learn from that mistake, right? If Bernie could not get past the finish line, and it is an even more uphill battle to go against a sitting president, I ask you this: what is the proof or the evidence that Marianne Williamson is actually going to try and actually defeat an incumbent president in a Democratic primary, instead of just using the opportunity to sell books and podcast appearances? I'm asking the question. I want to see her do well. I want to see her prosper. I want to see her do really well. But I will say, I'm not going to donate money to this campaign unless it proves that it's actually going to be doing something. And up until this point, if she announces today or yesterday, whenever it was, the day before, I don't know. If she's announcing now, I ask this question: where was she last year? The year before? Has she been building a movement? Is she even a part of any organizations? I'm just asking. I want to know. And if Marianne were to come on my show, and the only reason I even throw that out there as a possibility, I've seen her go on podcasts of people that are smaller than me. So that's why I say that. I'm not, if she doesn't come on my show, I don't care, right? But these are the questions I would ask her. Where were you during 2020, 1 and 2, right? And maybe she has good answers. I don't know, right? I have to look into that myself personally as well. But it's such an uphill battle that I'm going to need to see evidence that she's actually trying to do something that's more than just getting her name out there to sell books or to position herself. Like, maybe the 2024 campaign is so that she can position herself for 2028, right? So maybe she runs in 2020 to get her name out there so that she could run against Joe Biden in 2024 to continue the name move, and then she continues this momentum all the way to 2028 and wins. It's possible, totally possible. I want to see some evidence for that. But let's check out this Fox News article. What the fuck? Okay, close. Spiritual advisor and best-selling self-help author Marianne Williamson is facing backlash from those within her own party after she announced over the weekend she would pose a political challenge to President Biden. Biden has yet to declare whether he will seek the presidency for a second term. Well, this is another thing. Marianne Williamson, hey, I know, we all know the tea leaves. Joe Biden hasn't even announced he's running yet. Like, it's technically speaking a 0-person race, right? Marianne jumps in. She is the only candidate. If Joe Biden announces he's going to run, he would be running against Marianne Williamson, not the other way around. Now, again, I know we all the tea leaves, right? But I'm just saying, technically speaking, Joe Biden dropped the ball. He should have announced earlier. He should have announced, if he was going to announce, he should have announced either during or around the State of the Union, because that was he got a big sweep of popularity, and that's kind of been right. It's kind of been teetering away. So I don't know, man. If Joe Biden's going to announce, he's got to do it soon, and he's got to do it with some sort of fervor or something. But either way, she's the first one. She made it in first. Now again, we all know the blah blah blah, the tea leaves, but still. Quote, we know this country is played, blah blah blah. I already went. So, speaking from her campaign kickoff event in Washington, D.C.'s Union Station, Williamson drew the ire of some of the Democratic Party who are more than willing to dismiss her candidacy and throw support behind someone else like Biden, who will be nearly 82 at the next election. Democratic activist and American lawyer Aaron Parnas took issue with those attempting to legitimize Williamson's candidacy. Well, I mean, there's no need to legitimize it. It is already more legitimate than Joe Biden's candidacy because she declared that she's running and Joe Biden hasn't. So, as far as legitimacy, if we're going to define the word legitimacy in any fashion, right, I'm just throwing that out there. Biden is one of the most revolutionary presidents. Let's be clear, Marianne Williamson is a joke. She's a fundamentally unserious candidate running as a stunt to sell her books. Now, again, that is totally possible. Right? Totally possible. I'm willing to believe that. But I mean, Joe Biden's the same fucking guy, right? Like, Joe Biden only ran to sell books too, right? Like, I don't even know, yes, that's the default. Anyone running for president is there to either run for vice president, run for a cabinet position, or sell their brand that they're building during the presidential race. That's a fact. But I don't know, man. You're going to have to come up with something else. That's just me. But anyway, you can read the rest of this if you'd like. It's just a bunch of Democrats, like, yelling at Marianne Williamson. Now, again, my thing here is she's going to have to show how and why she deserves to be taken seriously. That is an uphill battle, right? But honestly, and I say this with all due respect, of which I have none, establishment, corporate, brainwashed Democrats, they are not the target audience. So my opinion, learn from the mistake of the Bernie campaign and just burn that bridge now. That's my opinion. Now, you can make arguments about, like, oh, it's a good thing Bernie didn't burn the bridge in 2020 because then he became Senate budget chair and now he's on the health whatever thing, right? Okay, that's a good opinion if you think you're going to lose. My opinion is Marianne Williamson is not Bernie Sanders. She has not been in Congress as long as Bernie Sanders. She does not have the friends and coworkers that Bernie Sanders has. She is not going to be a senator after the presidential election. So, the only tool that she has that could even possibly remotely put her in a better or even in the same ballpark as a Bernie 2020 scenario is if she burns all of these bridges immediately. She needs to go full on assault against the Democratic establishment. That's the only possibility that she has to gain any momentum at all, right? Now, again, I'm not saying that she hasn't done that. I'm just saying that she needs to level that up. If she can go on television and say, Joe Biden promised to reform the police, and instead he gave them 3 times the money. And now look, more people got killed in 2022 than any other year on record when it comes to police. Like, if she goes now again, I'm not saying that that's going to work. I'm not saying that that's a successful strategy. I don't know. I'm not a fucking genius. I'm not a psychic. But what I'm saying is, my understanding of the universe and how recent history has unfolded, that is really the only thing that she has that could even put her in a position even remotely similar to Bernie 2020. That is the nuclear option that Bernie did not use, because he is calcified in the system, and he was going, no matter what, if he loses the presidential election, he would have still been a senator, right? So again, he made those calculations. I disagree with them, but it is what it is. That's history. And if Marianne has a chance, she needs to do less of the platitudes, less of the love is going to save the world stuff. Now, again, you can sprinkle that in there, and that's a good message. I agree with the message overall, but less of that and more Barack Obama is a sellout piece of shit. Joe Biden is a sellout piece. Maybe you don't have to use the piece of shit part, right? But like, that's really, you have to destroy the images of Barack Obama. He needs to be knocked off his fucking pedestal. Barack Obama is a garbage fucking president, and people need to hear the truth. Joe Biden, garbage fucking president. People need to hear the truth. That is the only option that she has. And the sooner the better if she's going to actually take this campaign seriously. So, that's my opinion on the Marianne Williamson situation. As it is as of this moment, I am a de facto, I think everyone is a de facto voter of her, because Joe Biden hasn't even announced he's running yet. So, but as of this moment, I am a Marianne Williamson supporter in the loosest sense of the word possible. I will vote for her as of this moment. That is it. That is all she's got from me. I'm going to need to be convinced, if I'm going to put any more time, effort, or even money into that, I would need to be convinced that there has any possibility of her taking this seriously. As of this moment, I'm ambivalent, but hopeful. So that's my take on that. There you go.